It's me. So this is kind of a weird video I'm making out of nowhere. It's like 3 in the morning and I'm tired, but I just been thinking about this a lot. Uh Recently there's been news of an alien being discovered on the internet from Mexico. And there's like a bunch of people who seem to think it's real even though it's very obviously not. This is a picture of it. I kind of doodled on the for like the thumbnail. But yeah, that's actually what it looks like. And I made the joke that Mexicans will worship anything other than Jesus Christ because they have like Saint Death and an obsession with Mary. That I get because she's like Jesus' mom. You gotta have some reverence, but I think they take it a bit too far. Anyway, the important thing is that this is like in the news. Everyone's talking about how it's like a big thing they're discovering this thing. And yeah, that's kind of annoying and it's obviously a fake thing, but I notice a lot of people on like the speculative biology side of Twitter and just some people on the internet in general seem to think that the idea of there being a bipedal alien like absurd, and I really don't understand why. Right, so one of my favorite like game designer guys out there who's still around is Sandy Peterson. Now he's the guy who basically reinvigorated society's obsession with Lovecraft and eldritch horrors and such of that nature, because he basically wrote the Call of Cthulhu tabletop RPG, which I'm making a video on it. It'll be out eventually, but it'll be out when it's out, and I'm having it on the back burner. But anyway, the important thing is that he talks about how, and he has like his own YouTube channel where he talks about like Lovecraftian ideas. And one of the videos was, "Where's all the bipedal aliens? Where's all the humanoid aliens? Where all the other humans at?" And he basically just went on a whole thing about how aliens would probably look like anything other than human. They may look crustacean-like, they may look squid-like, they may look fungal-like, which all is really interesting for like speculative biology and like sci-fi, especially sci-fi horror, which ostensibly is what Lovecraft's writing is. And I do take a lot of his advice for running games because he clearly knows what he's talking about in that regard. But I really, really disagree with this idea that aliens are some distant species in some, other planet, incalculable distance away, would be any different than humans. Like, I mean, like, real, like, you hear like people say like, "Oh, I was abducted by an alien. It looked just like a person." I think that's probably the most realistic because I think of it like this, right? I've heard someone like say this before, but I don't remember exactly who. It may have been something like maybe like Nick Mullen maybe said it. I don't know. Someone you wouldn't think to have such a brilliant idea, but the gist was that in nature there are certain things that are just objectively the best. Like a pyramid will always be the strongest shape in nature, right? It's like the most stable because it's all like pushed on the one point, it's distributed downward, which is like why every continent on the planet has a pyramid on it, because it's the easiest thing to make for the most part, and it's the most stable. Like the ancient Egyptians probably had a lot more impressive buildings than just some pyramids in the desert, but they all fell over, Ozymandias and that. And then you look at like a car, right? You can make a car with 6 wheels. Uh, you can make a car that instead of having two axles with the front one that turns, you have it so all like four of the wheels all turn on different, like, to like move sideways or whatever. Basically, there's a million and one ways to like make a vehicle that involve not using two axles and four wheels. But how often do you think a six-wheeled car is going to be efficient? Like, we have three-wheeled cars, but they don't work as well as four-wheeled cars. They tip over easier, they're unbalanced. Steering isn't the best, you know. There's a problem with traction and weight distribution. And like you can't have a car with seven wheels because that just doesn't really do anything. You're just putting an extra wheel on there for no reason. And that's basically how I feel about aliens. Like, we've only ever observed like humans doing impressive stuff, really. Like to like an insane degree. Like, yeah, we see like chimps like use tools to gather ants, and we see, squids open up jars to get at clams, and dolphins do whatever dolphins do, and ants can make tunnels and stuff. But like, only humans like make Twitter and Facebook. Only humans can write like Star Wars and then make a alright prequel trilogy, then make a terrible sequel trilogy, then go on this Twitter thing we've invented and then complain about them endlessly as if any of that is like means anything. But it's just so much like stuff that we've created that just feels so mundane. But when you think about it from like a naturalistic perspective, it just simply does not belong in nature or reality for the most part. And we just did that. And no other thing has gotten close to it. So like from like a statistics point of view, it seems like if something were to accomplish anything even remotely similar to that, it would kind of have to follow our same basic layout, you know? Like, no species, or alien species specifically, is going to discover, like, combustion engines after, or sorry, before uh, they discover, like, projectile firearms, you know? Like, there's not going to be an alien species that discovers, like, there's not going to be an alien species that uses a microscope before a telescope, you know? 'Cause that's how it was in, our life. Because, like, it, you want to see things that are further away closer than something that's already close to you in greater detail, because one just is just more useful in day-to-day life from like a survivalist perspective. The other one's more of like a post-societal thing, you know. There's not going to be an alien species that discovers airplanes before cars, you know. So like there's like these things that they have to do, and evolutionarily we only know that like certain things work. Like, if there's an alien, it has to have like graspers. You know, it can't have too many because then it's just not going to evolve to need to make tools. So it's not going to, evolve down that way. Uh, it's probably not going to evolve to be aquatic because then it's not going to evolve legs, and then it's not going to evolve, you know, any ability to like leave its aquatic environment to go onto the surface of its planet to get whatever resource that has, and then go from there to space. Because like the gap between water in surface and then space is a greater distance between the distance between the ocean and the surface is a greater distance between the surface and space. It's harder to get stuff into the ocean than it is into space. I mean, just look at like how much of like space we've like looked around at based on like the ocean. Like we've barely done anything with the ocean because it's so deep and dark and depressing. Whereas like space, like there's probably aliens out there, and they probably look just like us, thinking the same things we're thinking on their own little alien Twitter, complaining and arguing and bemoaning and wasting our time, complaining about their time, complaining about some fake alien that their version of the Mexicans uh, put all over the internet for attention. Uh, and you could argue about like a philosophical aspect of that, but I don't know. I just think that yeah, the idea that aliens are like very very similar to humans just makes sense because like it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It works. We know it works. We haven't seen any evidence of anything else getting anywhere close to it. There's already a precedent for certain body plans and structures working better than others. So the idea of like aliens being extremely similar to us is probably more reasonable than a lot of people want to just admit. That being said, just the amount of like energy it would take to travel across like vast distances of space is just unreasonable. Like really the only explanation, not explanation, the only way you'd be able to have like an alien like in Earth would be if it's a mummified thing because there's absolutely no way it would have gone to Earth. It'd be fossilized actually. It wouldn't be mummified unless it's like a weird ice mummy thing because it'd have to show up on Earth like probably before life did. And I don't even know if fossilization can occur before life does because like there's nothing to fossilize. So I don't know. I don't know how to end this. Um, Aliens probably look like people, and that's not an excuse for believing in stupid hoaxes. All right, how do I stop this thing now?